about menu engineering and some of the tools that you can use to conduct it on your menu. Now, menu engineering provides you, the chef manager, with information about a menu item's profitability as well as a popularity, so that proactive planning, recipe design, and customer pricing decisions can be made. So let's get started. This is the popularity and contribution margin of each menu item, and then uses that information to classify the item as a star, plow horse, puzzle, or dog. Okay. Now, popularity is measured using the sales mix, comparing how much you sell of that one item to everything that's sold in a total. And then we have our contribution margin, which is how much that a menu item contributes to profit. So we're looking at if it likes, people like it or not, and also if it makes us money or not. That's the two things we're going to be looking at. Now, the formula to get contribution margin is the menu selling price, what's listed on our menu, minus what it costs us to put that food on the plate. And that gives us our contribution margin that is used to pay for labor, overhead, and give us some profit. The contribution margin is really what we're going to be looking at here. Now, you may think food cost percentage. You hear that a lot. That's something, we should be looking at that. And that does help in a ratio to know if things are going up or going down cost-wise. But in this case, where food cost is an item's ingredients cost divided by its menu price, we want to look at contribution margin, which is an item's menu price less its food cost. Okay, so it's a little bit different here, and it's going to help us determine its profit. So an example, this is sometimes confusing, so let me go over this again. For example, if you could sell one more item before your restaurant closed today, would it be a New York strip that you're going to sell for $20 with an $8 cost, which makes it a 40% food cost? Or would you rather sell pasta primavera, $10 selling price, only cost you $2, which gives it a 20% food cost? Which would you rather sell? Would you rather sell something that has a lower food cost, 20%, or would you rather sell something that has a higher food cost of 40%? So as you can see, food cost doesn't really matter in this case. It's really about contribution margin. Which would you rather sell? Which one's putting more to your bottom line, okay, after you pay for the cost of the food? New York strip, that's what I would sell, because that contribution margin is like $12, right? It's easy. Whereas the pasta primavera is only $8 contribution margin. So remember, contribution margin is based on the dollars you take to the bank, not on a percentage of a food cost in relation to the sales price. So in this case, food cost is not really that important when we're looking at it. So here's the menu engineering classifications and some of their definitions. So we have stars, plow horses, and dogs. Those are the four. And stars, love them. Very popular. Everybody likes them, and they make us a lot of money. Whereas on the opposite end is the dogs. Not very popular. They don't make us any money. In the middle, we have plow horses. Popular. Don't make us much money. Puzzles. Not popular, but they do make us money. So to determine this information, we're going to have to get the popularity to get this determination, which is we do this by tracking the number of each item sold. That's how we get our popularity. Right? To figure out which one is selling more. And determine our contribution margin, right? Contribution margins in here. One would need to know the selling price and the food cost of each item. So then we can subtract them. Now, while a menu item's contribution margin tells us how many dollars each individual sale of that item contributes to the cash register, we need to know how popular that menu item is to determine the total dollars, all right, it contributes to the restaurant's revenue. That way there we need to know popularity and contribution margin. These are the two things we need to know. So menu engineering takes each menu item's contribution margin and its popularity into account to determine to which of these four categories it is going to fall. And once we know these categories the menu falls into, we can then do something to it. Re-engineer our menu, if you will, so that we can maximize profit. So let's take a look at the form we would use to do this. Here is a sample menu engineering chart. And to use it, the manager would first input the information regarding the menu items. So here we have the menu items for this fictitious menu. We have wings, mozzarella sticks, California roll, Florentine empanadas, calamari, that's supposed to be calamari, shrimp, nachos, and quesadilla. And this would be for the appetizer category for the time period of the month of March. We would also want to put in the number sold for that time period, March, how many of each one we sold, and we also need to know our selling price from the menu of these items, as well as each item's food cost. That's the information we need to know. Once that has been done, calculations be carried out to get the rest. And then once we have that information and we classify them down here, we can then do something with it, right? Completed menu engineering form will classify those menu items based on their popularity and how much they contribute, which, using these two items here, gives us our menu classification, which is, you can see, stars, plow horses, dogs, puzzles, right? And once we know this, some decisions can be made to determine what we want to do with those. But first, before we talk about what we would do, let's take a look at this form. All right, let's take a look at a menu engineering form and see what we can do about it. So we have a form here for desserts, changing up the category. It's going to be for January, the time period, and now we're going to list our menu items. Keep it simple, and we put 3 on here: apple pie, cheesecake, and chocolate cake. The number sold for the month of January, we have that amount in there, and we have the selling price and the food cost from each one of these items. Okay, so with that information, we can then go through this and figure out the rest of the form. So let's do that. So we have 161, 56, and 90. Let's add them up to get our total, which is 406 items sold for the month in the dessert category, which gives us a sales mix. We use that for the 100%. Now, dividing B by this number down here, 160 by 406, we can come up with 39.4% apple pie, which is good. Almost 40% of the people that buy desserts in the month of January picked apple pie. So that's going to make it popular. Cheesecake would be 38.4, very similar. And chocolate cake, not so good. 22.2% of the people, wanted that. All right, so now we can go over to the next step, D minus E. We have the sales price and we have the food cost. So we can figure out each one of these items' contribution margin. So we're going to get 324, 445, and 297. We can also then jump ahead here to menu revenues. D, sales price, multiplied by how many we sold of each one of these. So let's do that right now. We have $720 of menu revenue from apple pie, $928 from cheesecake, which is good, and only $355.50 for our chocolate cake. So let's look at our menu costs next, right? E, which is $1.26 here, multiplied by 160 is going to give us $201.60. In each category, $234 or each menu item, and $88.20. Now we can figure out the contribution margin, F, right, in here, multiplied by how many we sold over here, is going to give us $518.40 for our apple pie, $694.20 for cheesecake, and only $267.30. Now, before we go and figure out these categories and be able to classify these 3 menu items, we're going to want to do the totals down here, and then we're going to figure out some of our ratios, what we're going to compare it to below. So let's do that now. The category for menu revenue total would be $2,370, $523.80 for menu costs, and our contribution margin total, $1,479.90. Now, with this information, we can figure out these bottom ones down here. So for Q is our desired sales mix. We're going to take 100% divided by the number of items, since we only have 3 items in our menu listed here, the 3 items. And then we're going to take that, which would be 33.333, multiplied by 70%, 0.7. We're going to get 23.33. That's our desired sales mix, which then we're going to compare to each individual item's sales mix over here, right? C, right? Compared, that's what that arrow means, compared to Q. And we're going to determine whether they're higher or lower. But let's do our average contribution margin first. M, right here, divided by N, 406. So 1479.90 divided by 406 equals 365. And then we can take J, right, divided by I to get our potential food cost percentage, which in this case is 26.1. Good, we got it all figured out. Now we can compare C to Q. So is 39.4 higher or lower than 23.33? Obviously, it's higher, right? So we would put H to indicate that it's higher. And then we can look at the next one. Is 38.4 higher or lower? Well, that one's high too, so put an H. Is 22 higher or lower? Well, it's lower, so we'll put an L to represent low. Then we can look at contribution margin category. F, is it greater or higher or lower than O? So we're going to look at each one of these individual contribution margins and compare it to $3.65. In this case, 324 is lower, right? So now we have H and L, high, low. What is that going to be in here? Well, we can figure it out because we know that that would be a plow horse. Now the next one is contribution margin F. In this case, 445 is higher than 365, so we put an H there. High is going to make that a star. We love it, right? It's popular and it makes us money. In the plow horse case, it's popular, but it doesn't make us money. And now we got a chocolate cake. Sales category is not very popular, and let's compare contribution margin of 297 to 365. It's lower, so it's going to be an L there as well, which low means it's a dog. Okay, so now we have our information, so we can make some decisions about these apple pie, cheesecake, and chocolate cake and what we should do about them. So let's take a look at it. So stars, as we know, they are not selling well, but are contributing considerable to the profit of the business. They're not only selling well, they make us a lot of money, but again, they're popular. Plow horses, popular, but they don't make us as much money. Puzzles, okay, not very popular, but they do make us money. And dogs, neither one, not popular, and they don't make us any money, right? And this is a visual of it here, so you can see, a horse. We sell a lot of them, they're popular, but they don't make us a lot of money. Whereas a star sells a lot of them, right? It's high up here, and it's very profitable for us. So we love the stars. As opposed to the dog, doesn't sell a lot of them, and it's not very popular. So it's in this far corner down in this area, so we don't really like the dog. So that's the visuals. We're looking for stars. But we can do something with these other ones, possibly, to manipulate them or engineer them different on our menu to try to make them to go into a star. We're trying to raise them into these different categories. So let's see what that may be. So if it's a star, okay, as we know, it's high popularity and it's high profitability. These are the stars on our menu, and our menu design should highlight them. Therefore, pay attention to locating them in highly visible areas so we can sell more of them. We can also test them for price elasticity, right? By raising the price slightly so that the contribution margin will increase without decreasing their popularity. So remember, if a customer is willing to pay more without affecting their total demand, logic says we should increase our price. We could also not do anything, just leave them alone. If they're stars, they're already a hit. We really don't need to experiment with stars. Just keep them consistent and keep promoting them any way we can. Now, if we get into plow horses who are very popular, but they don't make us as much money, these things are, again, they're trudging along like the plow horse, doing a great deal of work in sales, but they're actually not making us any profits. They're menu items that are popular, but we're actually losing money on. So they reflect good sales volume, but they generate little profits. Therefore, our goal should be to increase a more profitable version of these items without decreasing volume. Some suggestions are to increase the price, but be careful. Customers are sensitive to price increases. Another way to do this maybe is to change the item that accompany the plow horse menu item to lower the cost products or reduce the overall cost of the menu item. For example, if this was an Italian sandwich, we might experiment with less expensive meats in the sandwich or cut back on the portion size of the meats that's in the sandwich. We could also watch the plates, see if the customers are leaving a lot of menu item on their plates. So if you have a lot of leftover, they're throwing it away, which tells us that we should reduce the portion size and it won't really affect it that much. So those are some things we could do. We could also relocate the menu item into a more popular and higher contribution area, into our prime space so that we could, maybe sell more of them, make us some more money. Okay. In other words, try to maintain low menu visibility by trying to hide these items on the menu. So get them out of the prime space, put them somewhere else where people may pick something that makes us more money. But they're still there. If they really want them, they'll find them on the menu. So relocate them to a less popular area. All right, when it comes to puzzles, low popularity but high profitability, these are the most misunderstood items on the menu. They are the items on our menus that are highly profitable, but difficult to sell. They manage to make above average contribution margins but are weak in demand. And this issue is usually twofold. We have to ask, why aren't they selling well? And then how can we increase demand without sacrificing their high profitability? One possible way, make them more popular, is to try to relocate them to a high profile area. It's just the opposite of our plow horses. Include them in a high merchandising campaign, maybe rename them, right? I want to make these specials, position them in a different way, give them high menu visibility, make them stand out on our menu. Sometimes we could also just lower the price, increase their popularity enough to produce higher overall profits. So reduce the price to see if the menu item is overpriced by testing for price elasticity. So we can maybe decrease the price, get more people to buy them, and they'll still make us money. Okay? And you may also need to just remove the menu item. Sometimes, you just got to get rid of them. You may need to, if they have a poor shelf life or they're difficult to prepare, maybe just get rid of them. But you could try to do some different things with them, but be careful. Regular customers may want them, so you may not want to remove them and alienate a customer. So again, but now that we know where they're at, we can do some maneuvering and re-engineering to see what we can do with them. Lastly, we have the dogs. Dogs in the menu are the items that are not popular and they don't contribute enough. They're the poorest performers on our menu. Therefore, we probably want to just get rid of them. Consider omitting them, remove them from the menu. These 8 items may be nothing more than dead space on the menu and serve no purpose. And by dropping them, we can free up space, reduce clutter, and concentrate on our more profitable bearing items. These also can help reduce inventory. So maybe something we do, but we can also maybe try to convert them into a puzzle, right? Raise their prices so they are still maybe low in popularity, but they do make us some money. So again, you may want to do that, rename them, maybe describe them differently so you can make the item more attractive, which could also increase demand. And sometimes we have to keep dogs on the menu because their sales are, accompanied by something else. People, they help us overall by being on our menu. For example, think of a kids menu. Could be kids mac and cheese or a kids grilled cheese sandwich. The only one that buys them is kids, and they don't make us any money, but we still need to have them because they bring the parents in who buy more expensive, more profitable items. So we need them. In that case, we want to de-emphasize them, hide them. Maybe the kid will buy something that makes us more money, but we still have to have them, so put them somewhere where they're not noticeable unless they ask. Put them on a separate kids menu. Or when they ask for them, you'll have them, but you're not promoting them. All right, so that's some different things you can do. So let's look at a menu engineering form that you can do. All right, so you can see here we have a menu item, a menu engineering form for you to try. You can see that the food categories is going to be entrees, all right, and it's for the time period of January. I've already added in, they're only going to put 5 items in here, and how many sold for that time period is already done for you, as well as the sales price and their food cost. So it's all in there for you. I've also left in the formulas to make it easy. The formulas are all in here. So go ahead and try to fill in the rest of the columns. Now pause the video here first as you try and solve it. And when you're ready, go ahead and advance the video to see the answers and check your results. Okay, I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to advance the slide. So pause now if you want to try it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here's the answers. Hopefully this is what you got, and you're doing the exercise. Hopefully you did well. You found it pretty easy. Now that we've determined what these items are, dogs, plow horses, and 3 stars, we can do something about it. We can decide what we want to do with these menu items, if anything. For example, we currently have 3 stars on our menu. Most likely just leave them alone. We also have, as you can see up here, the steaks. They're dogs and a plow horse. All right, since they're both steaks, though, I think they are influencing each other. For example, because the 8-ounce steak is cheaper than the 13-ounce steak, I'm thinking that it's drawing customers to purchase the lower price, the 8-ounce, over the 13-ounce. So by maybe removing that 8-ounce steak, it's going to drive anyone that wants a steak into this 13-ounce steak. So that may be something to do. Another option may be just remove both of them. Okay, get rid of both steaks and then put on something different, maybe a 10-ounce or a 12-ounce steak that sort of splits the difference between the two, and you can kind of split this price too, make it $15, $16, and that way there you're still going to get the steak eaters, you're still going to make money, and it's still going to be popular. But whatever you do, you now have choices based on hard evidence, which is what makes engineering so great.